Welcome to New Mexico. Let's talk about one of my favorite subjects, print. I made some notes I'm going to try to ignore. Every single image I make with intention is intended to end up in print form. The vast majority of images I make, way over 95% of the images I make, don't work. That's been true historically of my entire career. I think it's true for every photographer. It's not something that we should shy away from or hide. It's just the way it is. So occasionally though, I get lucky, and that's what I'm talking about now. These lucky images, those images with intention. I always want their final resting place to be print, whether that's on the wall or in a book form or what we're going to talk about in a minute, magazine form, test book form. I've never been a fan of showing my work online. I've never been a fan of looking at work online. I think there's too much volume. I think there's too much average work, and I think even the good stuff gets lumped in with the average and it's dismissed very quickly. It doesn't tend to get the appreciation it needs. I've never been a big fan of photography on the internet. I like what print forces me to do. Number one, there is a monetary complement to print, meaning that I have to pay for every single page that I am printing. That makes me think at a different level. Secondarily, there's an image complement to print, meaning that once I commit to an image and it goes in there, I can't take it out. And if I show this body of work to a professional photographer, a fellow professional, and there's an image in there that doesn't belong, guess what? They're gonna point it out and they're gonna say, that image doesn't belong, you should have been a better editor. So I like that. I like that level of thought, and I do not think that level of thought often transcends to the digital space, not just with my own work, but with all of the other work I see. There's very little penalty for leaving images in the digital space. Like an iPad gallery with 150 images, not good. So the last film I made was about using Fuji cameras, and this is kind of about using Fuji cameras, because Fuji, like any other camera system, creates a specific file native to that brand. So whether you're using Nikon or Canon or Sony or Leica or whoever, the files that come out of those cameras look native to that system. So I printed something called the Fuji File magazine. And the Fuji File is a 116-page test magazine that shows me how I need to prep my files for print. Now, I printed this on both premium and economy versions of the magazine. With illustrated content, almost 100% of the time, I know already that I'm gonna go with premium. But until I saw the economy version with my own eyes, I wasn't 100% sure. And what the economy taught me was, if I have scanned artwork, line art, a lot of copy, and photography, I can actually find ways of using the economy version and I can save some money. But for most of the time, I'm gonna go with premium. But I learned something about my files and how to prep them. With my reportage work, how I'm currently tweaking my files and how they look on my monitor translates perfectly to the premium magazine. But my portraiture, I feel like needs to be opened about a third to a half stop, my portraits. I like my portraits to be a little brighter, a little more positive. My reportage has historically been dark, grainy, and contrasty. In college, I got an F on every printing assignment I ever did because I refused to make my work look like Ansel Adams. I wanted my work to look dark and unhappy. You know, I mean, who doesn't like dark and unhappy? So anyway, I learned how to prep now for each one of these. One of these has a gloss text paper and one of them has a matte text paper, and those are two entirely different surfaces. There would be no way for me to understand that, how my image is translated, without making test books. Oftentimes what happens to me in the field, I'm out as a blurb person and someone runs into me, especially people newer to the bookmaking system, and they say something along the lines of, well, I've never done this before, but man, it better be perfect. And it always makes me think about the art world in general. What comes from the art world perfect on the first try? Certainly not paintings, certainly not novels, certainly not photo essays, certainly not art books. I don't know anything that doesn't come through revision. This is my first revision with learning how to print files from the Fuji camera. So what is this not? These magazines are not for sale. These magazines are not a testament of my photography. These magazines are not perfect, and these magazines are never going to be seen by anyone other than what you're going to see on this little 1080 film. That's not their intention, but what they are is a roadmap for every single subsequent publication I make with Fuji files in them. And the last thing I'll say is, if you haven't taken your work into print, whether it's wall print, photo book, magazine, trade book, I don't care what it is, pamphlet, flyer, postcard, if you haven't done that, more so than anything else, it's fun. It is absolutely fun. It's addictive. So if you haven't done it, try it. Go use your camera. Go make prints.